Some days, it just seems like all that's good in the world is dying and evil continues to fester. Hello friends, Justice calls. Now if the past couple of years haven't rung any bells for you, we are living in the worst timeline. As such, something rotten has been brewing here on this wonderful platform and the consequences thus far have been disastrous. The ensuing doo-doo storm has seen one of the gaming sphere's greatest creators demonetized entirely. And I don't mean one of his videos got the yellow dollar sign, I mean his entire channel. A vast library of 7 years of editing, on-camera performance, blood, sweat, tears, and gamer gunk all gone as far as financial prospects go. No tip jar, no stream donations, and no paid memberships either. Worst of all, if it can happen to someone with 1.5 million subscribers and 10 million monthly views, well, it could happen to pretty much anyone. On a completely unrelated note, every other big YouTuber who has covered the topic has had their video demonetized or taken down, so I couldn't begin to imagine what happens to a small channel that tries to cover the topic. For the sake of safety, I'm going to cover only the unbiased, objective facts about this whole story. What you're about to watch is a completive, slightly abridged timeline of Caliban Act's attempt to point out the platform's shortcomings, his feud with a fellow creator, and the repercussions all of this had on his career and family. Now, before we begin our tale, I should introduce the characters. Our ill-fated protagonist is the Act Man, Halo enthusiast, pretend lawyer, and good guy extraordinaire. His brother and mother also get supporting roles. His ideological opponent currently goes by the handle Quantum TV. For the sake of impartiality, I'm not going to call Quantum the antagonist. If anything, he's the catalyst for the entire story. Despite any of his alleged misdoings, blame should fall on the decision process that led us to where we are today, not on the participants' actions. Ultimately, this is not a tale of two men clashing, but one of fairness and, more importantly, justice. Our account begins on February the 25th. With the world once more in a state of chaos, the Dank Lord himself, Miyazaki, rose from his slumber deep at the bottom of the Japanese sea, legions of many-winged animators and flame-spewing programmers buzzing around. It's done! It's out! Elden Ring is released to the public. Tens of millions of gamers worldwide will have their hands full for the following weeks, months, and in some cases, years. The fans, previously ravenous, are ecstatic to say the least. It's good, really good, so good it spawns an online black market for items you can easily acquire with a couple of clicks in a cheat engine, in a game with no competitive play or ranking system or any in-game purchases. But not all gamers were pleased. The swelling popularity of FromSoft brought many outsiders to their products, faced first with Miyazaki's design philosophy. With the online gaming sphere oversaturated with people singing the praises of this title, the game's detractors must have felt like they're living in some bizarre world where rap is down and the government hands people free money from excess production. It did not take these unsatisfied customers long to also begin voicing their opinions, which, despite being in the minority, cut through the sea of praise and quickly rose to the surface through their sheer divide from the accepted opinion.
Just about everybody and their mother says that I just need to get good. Well, frankly, I don't give a
One of said detractors happened to be Quantum TV, a member of the AV online niche as well as the gaming space. Quantum managed to get a lot of Elden Ring fans upset with his appraisal of the game. With so many tarnished gamers piling onto Quantum, he wound up posting follow-up videos responding to the viewers' critiques of his critique, further fanning the flames. April 10th, 2022. Actman publishes a video compiling some of the most abrasive and rage-filled Elden Ring reviews, and breaks them down with some counter-arguments and his patented style of humor. Among these is, of course, Quantum TV's take. Things might have fizzled out quickly if that's all it was, but Yakman took issue with Quantum for a couple of other things aside from his taste in games. Enter Mischief, a 17-year-old YouTuber who had responded to Quantum's complaints about the game previously. The minor's quarrel with Quantum led to a group of larger creators coming to his side and fighting against Quantum's opinions. Allegedly, in response, Quantum launched DMCA takedowns against those who rebuffed his video. At the time, Eggman only mentions the copyright abuse claims in passing and claims he won't go down the rabbit hole, instead opting to focus on Quantum's videos on Elden Ring and tear them apart, focusing solely on discussion about the game. Of course, it doesn't end there. After nearly 2 weeks of online drama, Eggman posts another video on the 23rd of April. This time, he singles Quantum out, but the discussion no longer revolves mostly around the game, but rather Quantum's alleged copyright claims against his video and some of the other unseemly online behavior he's being accused of. Luckily, YouTube apparently recognizes the copyright claims were filed in bad faith and rejects them. Eggman eventually manages to dig up enough bad things from Quantum's past that got him in trouble with previous communities he's been a part of, and discredits not just his taste in media, but also him as a person. Things seem to be going Eggman's way. He even claims at the end of his second video will push to get Quantum taken off the platform for violation of the terms of service based on proof he's shown in his video. And it doesn't work. Of course, it doesn't end there. After nearly 2 weeks of online drama, YouTube finds Quantum TV's copyright claims to be valid requests for review, but not against the terms of service. Finally, at the start of June, Eggman posts a video that would ultimately lead to his downfall. A well-edited, well-researched, and thoroughly packed 1-hour piece on why Quantum's TOS infractions are ground for a channel ban. The video is currently down due to community guidelines violations, but re-uploads can be found. Just in case at the time of posting there will be no way to access it, here's a brief summary. The video is framed like a trial from the Ace Attorney video games, complete with background music, dramatic transitions just like in the games, and cameos from Muta of Some Ordinary Gamers and Charles White aka Moist Critical. Heck, there's even a fake appearance from Quantum TV via edited together voice clips from his video replies. And it has to be said here, for all the goofy edits Eggman used in past videos to make fun of Quantum's opinions, during the trial video, the voice clips are handled with a lot of respect. Although a little stunted, his replies always feel like they would fit into whatever context they're being used in, and they actually help with the whole Ace Attorney aesthetic. This strawman representation of Quantum defends himself against accusations, calls out weak arguments, and even taunts Eggman for his reasoning at points. Make no mistake, this is nowhere near what a live interaction between the two speakers would be like. But barring a deepfake version of the man's voice reading from a script, this is the closest thing we could hope for. The YouTube algorithm also has a strawman representation which just reads off of the terms of service page. Now, this mock trial is actually a full story within and of itself. It runs through all of Quantum's supposed internet infractions, including posting bigoted content on third-party platforms linked to his YouTube profile, false copyright claims, cyberbullying, and contacting the Eggman's family. That last one is actually true, although it is difficult to prove malicious intent. Regardless of the validity of any of these claims, the main point is that Quantum is supposedly already banned on one of his older channels and currently ban evading. And if you don't know how YouTube works, bans are permanent. If one of your channels gets banned, you're not supposed to post on the platform anymore. You're not allowed to make new channels, or buy another person's channel, or even post under a false alias. Now, the video garnered quite a lot of attention since the Quantum situation had been escalating for over a month by this point, and this video seemed not just to be a major development in the story, but to actually put a cap on the whole shebang. After all was said and done, the verdict was still innocent. Yep, YouTube found no punishable offense on Quantum's track record. Not only that, but Eggman's magnum opus of a mock trial was demonetized and eventually taken down. The reason? Well, apparently it's explicit content. In case you're wondering, no, there aren't any actual explicit images in the video, no nudity, no explicit audio, and no naughty no-no words. Supposedly, what triggered the sanction was a short gag in the video where the Eggman inserted a poorly edited loop of a cucumber entering Quantum's mouth. Repeatedly. if you're wondering why he would do that, it's a jab at one of Quantum's jokes he made in a video. Regardless, after that terrible resolution, Eggman's channel was put under scrutiny and a couple more of his videos were taken down or demonetized. Understandably displeased by this outcome, the Eggman launched a series of satirical posts on Twitter where he made some tongue-in-cheek statements about intending to commit all the violations he accused Quantum of because, as he tweeted, YouTube supports that kind of behavior. This somehow resulted in someone at YouTube spotting the tweets, taking them at face value, and demonetizing Eggman's entire channel indefinitely as a consequence. The Eggman tried to appeal the decision through his partner manager and was denied. The creator community jumped on the story immediately. Not only were a large number of them already following the Quantum situation, but they were left baffled by YouTube's apparently siding with someone they saw as a TOS abuser while punishing the person trying to expose them. Until Philip DeFranco did an interview with the Eggman post-demonetization, most people didn't even know that the thing Eggman actually got punished for were the tweets and not the video. Most videos discussing the topic got demonetized as well, but that didn't stop people posting as a sign of solidarity. So, after what must have been hundreds of hours of research and editing trying to expose someone he considered a danger to the platform, Eggman had the book thrown at him and can consider himself lucky that at least he didn't receive a permanent ban himself. Truly, no good deed ever goes unpunished. And that's pretty much everything that happened thus far. For the time being, Kelly, or Eggman, is still demonetized, although he is allowed to post, so he could reasonably maintain his career via Patreon or other streams of income tangentially related to his channel. It is, as of yet, unclear whether the half ban his channel is under is going to be permanent or temporary. For the time being, he claims he'll be focusing on his personal life while the situation calms down. Now that I've presented you with a summary of the actual events, I'd like to jump into some speculation on a number of topics. What I'm about to say is my personal conjecture based on my understanding of the events. Please remember, these are not the canonical facts, just me trying to make sense of some of the more head-scratching things that went down. Item number 1. In defense of Quantum. With YouTube apparently siding with Quantum, it's easy to assume they're working with some sort of bias, but if we try to look at things from their perspective, it's not impossible to see why they made the calls they did. Allow me to dissect the allegations against Quantum and how they might have been dispelled. First, there's the H8 speech. While Quantum has said some pretty mean things against groups of people whose lifestyle he disagrees with, he claims his social media accounts at the time had been hacked. This is something that's very difficult to either prove or disprove. And if you're trying to be impartial, it would be unreasonable to assume that the man is lying, unless presented with very definite evidence. And even if he weren't hacked, his comments aren't actually all that bad. Yes, they're mean. Yes, they're against the community guidelines, but honestly, who actually supports those? But in Quantum's defense, all of his distasteful comments are just angry rants, spurred mostly by posts that are made to be incendiary in the first place. Therefore, you're not supposed to take them seriously, and they're not targeting anyone in particular. Even when they're comments about a specific group of people, it's because of a representative of that particular group that said something mean to annoy people with Quantum's beliefs. Second, the uninstall. This very much falls in line with the previous point. Quantum has, in fact, encouraged his detractors to, well, let's just call it respawning IRL. Again, just like before, these comments are just made in anger, usually targeting no one in particular or coming as a direct response to one of the hundreds of faceless internet accounts attacking him. It's not a direct or serious threat. The worst you could say about them is that he uses strong language. Number 3. Evading bans. This is simply very hard to prove. Even with Eggman's brilliant use of the Wayback Machine to prove Quantum was changing the identity of his channels to cover his tracks, I don't think this would fly if someone at Google brought it to the attention of a supervisor, simply because, well, it takes too many steps to explain the topic. Now, if the allegations are true, this is obviously terrible, but you can't really blame YouTube staff for having trouble with these cases, especially since it involves a relatively small channel. Fourth and finally, going for Eggman's family. Now, this is something that, yes, actually happened between Eggman's second and final videos. Quantum called Eggman's mom to ask about getting in touch with Eggman himself, and and let her know that he'll be pursuing legal action if he is harassed. Eggman calls this a threat against his family and harassment, but honestly, it's not like Quantum said anything threatening over the phone, aside from obviously claiming he'll pursue legal action. And that's honestly more like a warning, a sort of heads up, even if it's meant to be mean. Sure, it is extremely discourteous to just call someone's next of kin and involve them in a scandal they have absolutely nothing to do with, but Quantum claims he had no other direct line of communication and this was the best he could do to get in touch with Actman. A third party also texted Actman's brother during the suspension, but they were proven to be unrelated and they even claimed they're actually Actman fans. Alright, with all of those things in mind, if you were a YouTube staffer, could you really blame Quantum that much? Now, I know a lot of Quantum's alleged behavior is deplorable, but what I'm trying to say here is that he hasn't demonstrably done anything that crosses the line. And some of the bad things he says, while I'm vehemently opposed to them, I fully support his ability to see them. Good, bad, ugly, I'm not going to sit here and support oppressive community guidelines just because personally I don't like Quantum. As long as he's not being an actual threat to anyone, I fully stand by his right to scream into the dark void of the internet to his heart's content. But with Quantum's name arguably cleared, what about Actman? What did he do to get on the algorithm's bad side? And make no mistake here, YouTube is targeting him. I'm not saying this in a conspiratorial way, I'm simply saying it's obvious one of Actman's actions singled him out as a bad faked actor, leading to his channel coming under scrutiny. Here's my personal working theory on what the Eggman might have done wrong. First, he pursued Quantum too doggedly, giving off the impression that he might actually just be bullying a smaller creator, much in the style of Leafy, Drama Alert, or iDubbbz, all people who got into trouble with the system for singling out arguably problematic online personalities. Second, he painted a bad picture of YouTube. When you title your video The Dark Age of YouTube and constantly call the platform out on their enforcement of the terms of service, it's only reasonable to expect they won't be eager to work with you either on clearing your own name or chasing down a supposed bad apple in the community. Finally, and probably most damning, he wasn't clear enough in his presentation. Unless you're actually familiar with the story and his channel, you couldn't really tell if he's being serious or if he's just making a joke at someone's expense. Because Actman is an entertainer and his channel is focused on video commentary, all of his videos, no matter how serious, are filled with jokes and stylized representations of issues. To someone at Google HQ who's not exactly familiar with the style of video, they might have just skimmed through the trial video, seen the cartoon graphics and realistic faces superimposed in the cartoony scene, then just assumed this is all just one big meme at the expense of Quantum. This disconnect between what is to be taken seriously and what is humor might have even been what led to the channel's demonetization. The whole issue in the end came down to a series of satirical tweets which were interpreted as if they were dead serious. But honestly, in my most serious and most important opinion, the whole tweet scandal makes absolutely no sense. Unless someone at YouTube already thought Actman was a bad apple and was just looking for any excuse to axe his channel, there's no reasonable way someone would take these tweets seriously. First off, who would take these at face value? Even without any context, they're obviously not serious. The associated images are of Actman smiling quizzically while the text is about him planning to do terrible things. Even when we look at the text in isolation, there's an obvious disconnect between Actman's stated intentions and the ending note, which says, YouTube supports this kind of behavior. YouTube doesn't support that kind of behavior. It obviously doesn't. That's the whole joke. It's how you're supposed to know this is a false statement. And even if by some miracle you are genuinely convinced these tweets are honest in everything they're saying and they're serious, there's no actual threat here. The tweets say Actman wants to engage in doxing, hate speech, and harassing YouTube staff. There's no indication anywhere that Actman has an actual target. Who is he going to dox? Who is he going to talk naughty words at? Who in YouTube staff does Actman actually know anything about so that he could harass? Aside from the one single contact he has, his partner manager, who he probably only knows the phone number or email of, he knows absolutely no one at YouTube Stuff. Ackman has no idea who these people actually are, where they live, where they work. He doesn't even know how to get in contact with these people. How would he possibly harm them? To make a comparison, imagine I said something incendiary like, "Eat the rich, ew." I could say that all day, but who would I even be referring to? I don't know any rich people, and I definitely don't know where they actually live or where they come from in the first place. For all I know, they all roll out of some tuxedo store somewhere and just show up when they're needed on camera. Alright, that's really all I had to say. I hope it painted a pretty clear picture for anyone who missed out on the scandal, and in case some of the videos and documentation about this thing get taken down. I know there's plenty I haven't covered, but you'll find a lot of videos from the actual participants themselves, as well as other YouTubers such as Tech Review USA, Mischief, or Muta. If you like to do something about this whole debacle, your best option is probably to spread the word and use the hashtag #JusticeForAckman until an actual human at YouTube makes a statement about the whole situation. Please be respectful and keep calm. The platform has been through a lot of growing pains before, and despite things often looking glum, it's been getting better and better over the years. Until the next time, I've been Tutti Woody. Cheers.